Everyone talks about getting a football scholarship like it's the dream. Free education, play the sport you love, but here's the truth. In this video, I'm going to break the whole system down and figure out if it's even worth it. But before we get into it, why should you listen to a random guy with a backwards cap? Well, my name is Alan Dariad. I've been a full-time football agent for the last 8 years. And in that time, built the largest player agency in Australia with connections to over 25 professional clubs in Europe. And we've successfully signed some Aussies overseas. I make these videos for players that can't afford myself or my team's services because, well, we're not cheap. But I want to break it down into about 4 different sections. We'll start off with section 1. And the first thing I'm going to touch on is the pros that they sell you on a US scholarship type plan. So what do they sell you? They sell you, obviously, the free degree that you're going to get for being overseas, the daily training that you're going to get to play football and also be studying at the same time. They try and sell you the new country and the sort of lifestyle hype experience, right? That seems to be a very novelty thing for Aussies wanting to sort of go to the UK and USA or Canada. I don't know what it is about Aussies that are attracted to that lifestyle, but apparently we are. That's an added benefit. And now I'm going to talk about the reality of those things. First one is that your free degree is more like a locked-in home ownership. Most of you probably won't resonate with this sort of analogy, but your parents will. Basically, the dream that they sell you is kind of like the same dream of home ownership, right? Everyone wants to own a home, but what they don't tell you about that dream is that you will spend the next 30 years of your life paying down this mortgage, this home loan. Also don't tell you about home ownership is that your opportunity cost in buying a house is basically everything else. In the short term, for a lot of people, renting is actually better because you could use that money elsewhere. But they will look for the 90% of people that are looking for stability and buy a house into getting a home loan, right? Totally fine. This US college type setup is the same situation. They are preying on 90% of people that are looking for stability that doesn't exist in having a backup to what is the player's main goal, right? Please don't treat your football career as a long-term asset because it's not. You have a very limited amount of time to make it happen. It is a very short-term thing. And trying to complete a backup like education or whatever it is, for most of you is not it, homie. That's just taking away from the actual goal. And really, most of you should be leaving that for the friend whose dream isn't to become a professional athlete, it's to become an accountant. Nothing wrong with becoming an accountant. If that's your dream, you know your pathway is uni. For a lot of you, if your dream is to become a football player, you shouldn't be studying. You shouldn't be looking at that plan B. You have time for that plan B. Most people cannot give more than one thing their full attention. You just can't. The reality is that most of you aren't going to do 60-hour weeks. And if you're doing 30 hours at studying, 30 hours of football, it's impossible. And if you want your thing to actually work out or give yourself the best chance, you should just be doing the one thing. So by you're locked in like a home loan, you're basically not doing either one of them. The other point is that scholarship does not actually translate to a full ride. They're super sneaky about it. They say, yeah, we can get you this scholarship-based thing, yada, yada, yada. It's a discount or whatever. And really, they're just inflating prices and making it look like you're getting something. And so you go, oh, these people want me. They're giving me a half scholarship or they're giving me a 25% scholarship or whatever. They're really interested in me or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And really, they're just selling you this expensive course, right? This expensive degree, locking you in like a home loan, and on top of that, selling you on with a scholarship that was never even a scholarship to begin with. Plus, you'll be paying thousands anyways, like thousands of dollars to whoever helped you plus the school. I'm gonna get into this more deeper in the video. Third point is that the training sucks. At most schools, it is not UEFA Pro standard. It is not for pro players development standard. It is just teachers and they got a job as a coach, in the teaching ground, right? It's almost like the same thing as people that go to uni for business school and they're getting advice from someone that's never started their own business, right? Picture it that way. Like that's the same thing at these universities. You're getting coached by someone that has never coached pro players, doesn't understand the system, and never worked European. Like it's It's all a fugazi. And the people that say they have and I used to work at Liverpool and I did this or whatever, it's all fugazi. They're all scammers. They're all fake. Don't believe anyone in this industry. 90% of them sharks everywhere, across everything, whether it's US scholarships, whether it's academies, whether it's agents, they're all the same. The training sucks practically, right? So the thing that you're paying for the main thing, it's average, right? And you're probably going to be getting the same or better results at NPL clubs here. Now, talking about section 2. Basically, I'm going to expose the business model. And number 1 point is that these agencies are just glorified middlemen. These people that sell you these programs, they basically do no work, right? They're like in-betweeners charging you a service that they do nothing for, right? Basically, all they're doing is they're linking you with the uni, which, by the way, their only process is that they accept everyone as long as your parents are willing to pay. But they don't tell you that. They just tell you that you're good enough and that they sent this and they did this or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's all a fugazi, right? So as long as your parents pass the money questions correctly, you'll go through to these applications to play. They don't care where they send you. They don't care if they send you to a uni and they know that you're going to be on the bench for the whole 2 seasons because they know you're not at that level. They don't care if it's a uni where there's no pathway moving forwards, right? They don't actually care about getting you signed is my point, right? They're just selling you program, they're a middleman. And they charge for that service anywhere from 15 to 60,000 USD, right? So basically, if you're an Australian looking at this, just double that figure. That's what they're charging for their fees. This does not include tuition fees, right? So over a 4-year course period, it does not include tuition fees, right? So I'm going to get into this in section 3 just to paint a better picture of how much money you're actually going to be dumping into this stupid thing. But the majority of the work is done once you're placed. There's no help in between. It is borderline predatory. Like, it is predatory. They're preying on families that are uneducated, that don't understand. It's a market that don't understand. The football industry in general, it is so complicated to understand. Even people working in the industry don't understand it. So imagine someone that's on the outskirts. But they prey on people that don't understand what they're getting themselves into, and they're comparing the tuition fees and all that sort of stuff to Australia, and it's lining up and this and that and yada yada yada, expecting that the kid to have something else different. But really, it's like playing here NPL. That's basically what you're getting yourself into. You could just study here, get the same results, right? It's basically what it would be like is a real estate agent charging you 5 figures, right? Showing you 1 rental and then never picking up the phone again. Like, in terms of the work that they do, it's basically that. Like, once you're palmed off, he gets his commission, he gets his cut, and that's it. I say this because I know someone that does this, and he has a team of 2, and he's making 5 million a year. It is disgusting how much people are making from something like this, that there's no work, there is no value, there's no service. It's just people that go, meant to do 4-year degrees, and the majority of them come back after 2 years. Like, I know even friends that had brothers that, did something similar with this sort of stuff. So it's ridiculous. And there's even some programs that are in Australia football that are tied to US scholarships, right? And Australia football literally will kick up a stink about elite football. Like, if I go and watch games, there's people that are working Australia football that will see me and dad watching a local NPL game. They'll sit next to us and they're like, oh, what are you doing? Poaching players, ha ha ha, like whatever. And not want us to do any work for players, right? Because they don't want us to pull players away from them to send them to proper places. And yet the same Australia Football Australia will work with companies that are doing these US scholarship based stuff and allow them to have the whole email list of, Football Australia to promote their events or promote whatever, because they get a cut out of everything off the top. So it's all a huge business, right? For everyone, which is, fair game, make money, do whatever you want. But I want you guys to be aware that it's ridiculous with what it is. And there's so much hidden in this space. Section 3 is why it actually makes no sense. Why would you fly to the US to play average football and study generic courses? You've got average football in Australia, you can play NPL, tick. You want generic education? You've got the Australian unis, right? It's the same thing. There is literally no difference, right? Comparing Australia to USA, it's the same thing. There's no actual real pathway either way. So you could study in Australia, save money, play NPL, and eventually go to Europe. It's just an option. If your goal is to become a pro footballer, 99% of these sort of study and play pathways do not set you up for it. They're dead ends. You literally end up paying more for less football exposure. So let's paint another picture. I searched it up and the average tuition fees, including room, board, books, supplies in the US is around 38,270 USD. So about 60,000 Australian, more or less, for a 4-year institution, right? Like a 4-year degree, 60K per year. Let's not worry about the fact that you're locked in for 4 years. I'm gonna make this a bit more fair. I'm just gonna say the first year, 60,000, right? So 60K, or when I broke it down, roughly 60K divided by 12, it's basically about the same that one of my players would be charged monthly at a European club, right? Only difference is you're at a professional European club in their residencies and trialing. So, for example, you could spend 60K per year and spend 12 months at a college in US playing college football and studying a degree. Or you could trial in the same time with spending a little bit less, mind you, between 4 and 6 European teams, assuming that you want to have like a proper trial 2 to 3 months per team. Now let's just make it a bit more even, right? Considering that you'll be locked in for 4 years here, let's compound this by 4. If we times it by 4, right, you get 240K, which is an extreme amount of money, right, to be spending for a 4-year college tuition plus everything else, football, right? And you know, you're going to be at the same college, which means you're going to be playing most likely for the same college that 4 years. Or if it was our players spending that amount of money, which I wouldn't recommend, that's ridiculous. Hypothetically, it would be anywhere from 16 to 24 clubs in a 4-year period. Player A, player B, who do you think has more exposure and chance to become a professional athlete? So one has a degree and has played at the same club for the last 4 years. The other traveled Europe, trialing exclusively with professional clubs from the 1st to the 5th division, 16 to 24 clubs in a 4-year period. Who do you think has a better chance of professional contract? One is designed and packaged for those that are afraid of their future. The other is designed for those wanting a real shot at a professional contract. You just need to decide which one you are. I know that's an extreme evaluation, and showing those two sides, it looks crazy, the money that you spend. I would not have someone trial at 16 different clubs. That's ridiculous. If you haven't made it after the first sort of 7 or 8, it's, you know, we should have that talk about, hey, you're spending a lot of money kind of thing, you know, what's the goal here? Or you don't have it, right? But hypothetically, if you were to do the same thing, I'm sure a club's going to pick you up. They have to in that 4-year period. Like it's an insane amount of clubs and exposure that you can get instead of what most people are doing. The issue is that people accept spending that much money on a degree because they think that they're getting something tangible that they can use and whatever. If your goal is to become a professional footballer, that is not what you should be doing. That is very much a plan B. That is very much for people that don't actually want to become a footballer. Because if you really want to do it, you should give it all you got. And if people are spending that much money in degrees and then slowly paying it off for the next 15 years of their life while they're working, why can't people hypothetically do the same thing with football? I just don't think that there's been enough case studies of people actually doing something like this to show the results. But if 50% of people that go into uni, you know, drop out, I reckon people that do that, yeah, probably you're gonna see about 50% that fail, but 50% is pretty high. Our numbers right now is at anywhere from 8 to 10% of people that join our play rep program are successful. But my players only go to 1 or 2 clubs, the majority of them, and that's it. Imagine if you were to do 16 to 24, like insane. But I'm gonna be more balanced here. And in section 4, I'm gonna talk about when it does make sense for someone to take on the scholarship. School first. If you're genuinely interested in a specific degree and you school is the priority, football is secondary. That being said, the other thing that's very similar to that is if you're using football to get you into school, right? So if you are an awesome player and you are kind of leveraging your talent and you want to get that right or whatever because you want to make something happen and you're using your football skills to get you that scholarship or whatever, happy days. I approve that, right? If you aren't that football focused but you just are talented at it and you're just going to use it, great. Third thing I'd say is for those of you, the rare ones that actually get a full ride scholarship at an NCAA D1 school. So if the school is promising that they're going to pay for everything, right, your whole tuition, even if they don't pay for your board and accommodation, but they pay for your whole tuition and you just have to source your own accommodation, they're not selling you something, I'm cool with it, right? If you get a full ride and it is a top D1 school, take it. Why not? That's not bad. That, you know, could go places, right? If as long as they're willing to back you all the way, the coaches or whatever, the staff, they're going to try and push you up there because they're going to want to make money from you eventually. And so it makes sense to me. The last one is just research. Look, at the end of the day, it's just my opinion, right? Do I know a lot about the football space? Yes, I do. Do I know everything? No. Is your life full of your own particularities and your own wants and needs and outcomes that you're wanting for your life, right? 100%. Am I going to be able to know everything through the lens of a video camera? No. Would I be happy to have you call one of my support agents and have a free consultation and have your questions answered and us to give you, a free evaluation? That is totally free. Link down below. Have a crack at it, right? We're happy to help as many people as possible, free of charge. But you need to do your own research and figure out if, maybe it's something you want to do, maybe it's not something you want to do. This video is not going to be enough for you to make that decision. And now look, I went through the 4 sections, but just a last sort of tidbit, section 5 for me would be smarter alternatives. Just think about what your opportunity cost is. What is another thing that you could be doing instead of trying to go down this road of US scholarships? You could be playing NPL or lower European teams and at the same time studying online. And so if you want to do that football and study, you could do that option. I have players that do that option. They're focusing on their football and they're putting another 20 hours on online study that doesn't take that much of a workload for them. You could work part-time, invest in trials and, take control of your exposure and your development. Feeding into a 4-year contract with someone kind of grabs you by the balls. Like you don't really have much leeway there, but you can sort of dip your toes into other things before you sort of make bigger calls like that and sort of have control over it. You could just, I don't know, this is crazy, just study here and play here and only go overseas when you're actually ready to go overseas with a professional club and not some side project. At the end of the day, most of yous have one shot at this awesome football window, right? Don't waste it on a deal that was never built for you. Are scholarships a scam? I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below how you view US scholarships.